everybody. Welcome to Mormonish. I'm Rebecca.
And I'm Landon.
And we're going to be talking about a topic today that we have been posting and talking about and learning about and talking to people about. What are we talking about today, Landon?
We're going to talk about the Cody Temple in Cody, Wyoming. This is a new temple that's been going up, and the community itself is not really thrilled about this temple going in. And it's not so much the temple itself as the location of the temple, and that's what they're fighting. Created quite a bit of controversy. Of course, we know that this has happened at other places in Utah, specifically.
Beaver Valley.
A place in, was it Tennessee or something, where they had a similar issue.
Yeah.
But of course, in Utah, they were able to get it moved because I'm guessing they didn't want to fight their own members. But in Cody, that didn't seem to be the case. The church seemed to be more than willing to fight the community to get what they wanted. And it's turned into quite a negative issue there in Cody, Wyoming. So we wanted to talk a little bit about that.
Yep, absolutely. And we have had the honor of being able to contact and sort of talk to people in Cody they have organizations put together to try to kind of shine a spotlight on what's happening and maybe see if they can, through some activism, make a positive change in the situation. So a lot of the information that we're bringing you here actually are from residents there that are right in the trenches, trying to make a difference in this situation. We also, we're going to go through some information pretty quickly. And then after that, we actually have brought on a Cody resident who herself is a wonderful woman named Yvonne, who is going to tell us more about the situation from the ground there. So let's just jump in with some of the facts. I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with this already, but we're going to kind of put everything in one place and go through kind of the timeline of what has been happening in Cody and why this has become such an issue in the post-Mormon and Mormon community.
That's right. The Cody, Wyoming temple was first announced at General Conference in October 3rd, 2021 by President Nelson. This is part of these 300 temples that they've announced, this ungodly amount of temples. And I guess ungodly temples, that might be an oxymoron, but
that is an oxymoron.
That seems to be the direction they're going. So it was first announced October 3rd, 2021. And of course, we all know how members react when yes. This part of General Conference comes. It's the highlight of the entire conference. Someone can do a beautiful singing performance. You can't clap, but when they start announcing temples, all reverence breaks and everyone
through the roof.
And they're so excited. In fact, we can't help but do a Trexmo on this. As everyone who knows Rebecca knows, she loves to do Star Trek memes. And so she did one specifically related to the Cody Temple. And that's Janus 6 gets a temple.
That's right. And for those of our listeners, it's Dr. McCoy, just mouth wide open, couldn't be more thrilled, because I think this epitomizes the reaction of members when you announce a temple anywhere. I mean, it could be anywhere, and they're just absolutely stunned and thrilled and can't get enough. So yeah, that's one of our favorite Trexmos right there. Janus 6 gets a temple.
It's hard to picture this reaction of what happens when you get a temple and compare that to what the community who isn't at General Conference and doesn't know anything about getting a temple, they have more of a look of horror on their face at times because
or confusion. It's like, what is this? What is coming into our town? What does this mean? What is this? Yeah.
In the case of Cody, I think it was at first, oh, that's interesting, and it then turned to horror based on how this process went. And so exactly. I think the lesson learned from Cody is when they announce the temple in your community, before we all get excited, maybe we ought to look at the impact, look at what they're trying to do, and look at the result that it's going to have on the community before the community gets too excited. This is the location of the Cody Temple. It was announced. Now, remember, the temple was announced October of 2021. March 13th, 2023, the First Presidency identifies the site for the Cody, Wyoming temple, and they announced it to the public on March 15th. So the first time anyone in Cody knew where this temple was going to go was on March 15, 2023. Today is August, what, 14th, 12th, 13th, somewhere in there.
Something around there.
Yeah. So we're talking literally, they just found out a couple months ago where this temple was going to go. This is important because anyone who's been to Cody, the property is going to be visible from the North Fork Highway. And this is a pristine, one of the most gorgeous drives in the United States. It connects Cody to Yellowstone National Park. Cody itself is a small town, about 10,000 people, sits about 50 miles from Yellowstone Park, but it's kind of the last town before you enter into Yellowstone Park. So it's got a lot of hotels and a lot of little restaurants and different things there where people stop, they stay the night before they go on into the park. And it seems that this seems to be one of the reasons that the church wants to put the temple there. They've put a temple at the entrance to every entrance to Yellowstone at this point. This was the last of the crown jewels to put a temple in front of an entrance into Yellowstone. And although it looks flat here, this actually sits up on a bluff, and so it can be seen from everywhere in town. And that's one of the things that made the residents concerned about this temple. Cody itself is, as we said, it's a tourist town. That's really where a large portion of their income comes. And that is even at a limited time of the year because it gets so cold up there that tourism really only occurs for about 5 months out of the year. And it's kind of funny because when they announced the temple in Cody, Wyoming, the church made a few statements. They said, this is Matt Burke, the senior construction project manager for the church. This is what he said. He said, compatibility with the community was a key factor taken into design of the temple. He said that church officials spent over a year studying Cody architecture and the community as a whole before submitting a design. This came out of LDS church officials talk about the church open house from a newspaper article. This is the comment he made. Now, anyone who's been to Cody, and I've been to Cody, knows the flavor of Cody. We've got a couple pictures here of the downtown. You can see Cody was named after Buffalo Bill Cody, who founded the town. Everyone knows Buffalo Bill, Wild Bill, Buffalo Bill Cody. He had the traveling show and all the different things that he had. He founded the town. His home is there. You can tour his home. You can see here on the bottom left and the top left, there's a hotel there. It's called the Irma. He built this hotel, named it after his daughter. It was built back in the 1800s. This is a very Western town. You can see on the upper right there, the Buffalo Bill Center of the West is a museum that's been built in Cody. It is a premier museum of the West. It's got 5 wings. It's got a gun collection that is second to none. It's one of the top gun collections in the world, I've got to think. An entire wing that's nothing but guns. Another one's dedicated to the Native Americans. There's a wing dedicated to the settlers and Buffalo Bill and the town itself. Just an incredible museum. But you can see from the museum, it's got the bronze statues of the horse riders, and it's also got a small town feel. If you go inside, it's got stagecoaches, horses, saddles, all the things that you expect from a Western town. They built this single level, part of it's underground, but they really tied it into the to the town. When you go, there's big windows at the end of the wings that look out into the open expanse of Wyoming, and it just really ties the museum to the surrounding environment. Really,
and the residents care about this a lot. The residents care about the look and feel of their town, and they take that into consideration in their zoning, their ordinances, everything, to make sure that it has this whole look and feel. Also, it's a tourist community. The tourists want that look and feel. That's why they're there. That's why they're there spending money, right? They want to feel like they're in, Buffalo Bill's environment.
They're
so
there for
they
that
very
Western
much care
culture.
about it.
And every all the hotels are, the Wagon Wheel Hotel, all the restaurants are, Circle J Chuck Wagon, it's the very Western feel.
Right.
Cody doesn't have bars. They have saloons.
Right.
It is a Western town. So
Right.
the church says it spent a year studying Cody architecture. Evidently, they never talked to anybody from Cody because nobody from Cody seems to have known anything about what the temple was going to look like until they unveiled the temple look late in March 2023. And after a year of studying
Cody architecture,
the church, Cody architecture, this is what they came up with.
Here's the design. Oh, okay.
Here is the design that ties in with Cody. This was released on March 28th. This is the first time the residents of Cody get to see this temple. And remember, the site was announced maybe 2 weeks prior to this.
Correct. It's all happening very fast for everybody. The resident is like boom, boom, boom. All these things are coming out. And this, for our listeners, it has a very tall tower, as a lot of temples do. And it almost, to me, has sort of a Spanish feel. To me, it has some arches and some multi-levels, of course, white, and of course will be lit up almost 19 hours a day, correct? Because I think 1 to 5 are the time, or questionable about how often it's going to be lit.
Limited to 10 to
that was part of what we'll talk about later in the city council.
They were going to run it till like 1 a.m. and then 5 a.m. And obviously anyone who's been up this far north, in the wintertime, you get long periods of darkness. So for a large period of the time, it is dark up there in the wintertime. But yeah, this is a white, it looks exactly like all the other tip-up temples, these new modular temple designs.
Yes.
It is clear that nobody looked at Cody architecture when they put this temple together, because this does not look anything like the town of Cody. It's going to stand out like a sore thumb. And to the residents on a hill that's going to be lit, Cody, which is a dark sky, Western town, you can see the Milky Way. The stars at night are bright. That's the feel of the town. And now you're going to have this bright white lit up on a hill building that is going to be seen from all over. It changes the feel of the town of Cody. This is a danger in Cody. And to the residents, the worst part of it is that the location is actually located in a residential area. It's zoned for residential. Maximum height for the roofs is 30 feet per this. And typically in a residential area, you're not allowed commercial. It's got 140 parking spaces, I think they said.
Very large area. Yeah,
it's a 2-lane road in and out to the location. And so that's what the residents really have a concern about. And we talked to the residents about a month ago. We started talking to the residents and trying to ask what was going on. And they made it very clear to us that this had nothing to do with the religion, that the building didn't belong in the space where they were putting it.
Correct.
It's not a residential building. It doesn't belong in their residential neighborhood. And so it's interesting to note that the land that was donated for this, it sits on 5 acres. In fact, I think we have a picture here.
Yeah, let's move through our slides here so we can show the visuals.
Yeah,
here we have
about 10,000 square feet.
Right.
It only sits on 5 acres. That's not a very large plot for a temple, and it sounded like, talking to some of the residents, that there was going to be another administrative building or something that would also be.
That's typical, I think, in any temple site. Yeah, they have the parking and the residential, absolutely. And of course, the spire, 101 feet tall, and that's one of the big items of contention. And then the square footage of the temple itself, 9,950 square feet. It's your typical, but you can kind of see from this graphic, and for our listeners, it's a graphic of the temple standing against, the standard town and what the commercial area in the town is zoned for, you know, a 30-foot building, and you can really see the difference
Well,
between a 101-foot spire and that smaller building.
and the comparison they're making there is to the Irma Hotel, the hotel that Buffalo that Bill Cody founded. And you can see it just towers over it. Then put on top of that that it's sitting on a hill.
Right.
This is going to be the site that everyone sees in Cody now, not the historic Irma Hotel and casino that was established back in the 1800s. And so that's certainly a concern to the members. And we want to say that the town people that we talk to, the coalitions, they said we're not even opposed to there being a temple in Cody. It just needs to go in the commercial district where there's other buildings of a similar nature that is zoned for this type of building, that has a 4-lane road going to it. That's where it belongs. It does not belong towering on a hill in a residential community.
And they're basically saying, follow the laws of the land, follow the laws of the land, follow what our town has set up, our zoning restrictions, our ordinances. And they also made it extremely clear, the residents we talked to, they said, we're all of different denominations. If any of our religions were trying to build this kind of a building, we would oppose it. This is in no way directed at a specific religion. This is a building that doesn't fit and is not zoned for where they're trying to put it. So they were very clear that they would stop their own religions from building any kind of a building that would go there, or any corporate building.
You know, in any town, there's building codes and there's, you know, covenants that you have to follow. And evidently the church only believes in keeping covenants when it's inside the temple, not
you had to go there. There you go.
Covenant,
so,
you know, the covenants
that's right.
for building codes. But one of the things we did learn as part of our study for this was that the resident that donated this land comes from a very wealthy family. They got their money from starting Husky Oil. That person or that family was the temple president of the Billings, Montana temple. Very well.
Say father or grandfather, not the person that we're talking about right now, but in the family, there had been a temple president of Billings, Montana. Correct.
The family name, they're all the stake presidents and the temple presidents and all of that in this area. They donated the land. Evidently, the grandfather donated the land for a temple because they wanted a temple there years and years and years ago. And the church took that land and held it and then sold the land. And this land is very near where the current temple site is. Then after selling the land, a few years later, they decided, let's build a temple in Cody, and went back to the family and asked them to make another donation of land for the temple. And so this is the second donated piece of land for the temple.
From this family.
So that kind of shows you, you know, when we think that, you know, the members all think, oh, the first presidency approved, and the first presidency does approve this temple locations, but obviously it's related to where was the piece of property that was donated at. But in this case, it was clearly land that was on a bench that could be seen from a long way away, that they determined to be that's where they wanted to have the temple, so that they could show the world their temple set on a hill. And that's where a lot of the Cody residents have the issue at.
Right.
It's funny because we went, after reading about how they spent a year in Cody looking at this architecture, we went to AI and said, AI, would you please design us a temple for Cody, Wyoming? And in 30 seconds, we got the temple drawings here, which we all thought would be a far better.
I love these. I absolutely love these. And for our listeners, they're a temple structure, familiar structure. However, they're a log cabin. They're very cute. I love it. I especially like the bigger one on the left. And why not? Let's have a temple that looks like the Cody architecture, a log temple.
And rather than being lit up from the outside, it's more of a very subdued, almost candlelight, homey look with just some lighting that's very subdued. And
Yeah.
it even has a, gold. I don't think it put the angel Moroni, but it certainly put a gold figure on top of it.
Yes.
This reminds me very reminiscent of the hotel in Yellowstone, the big Yellowstone Lodge. A log structure. And why couldn't a log structure beautify and typify God? But we have to go with the white concrete tip up temple that evidently is reminiscent of Cody architecture and the West, which really looks more like a Spanish hacienda or something of that nature. So yeah, we just put this in for a little bit of fun to see, what could AI render with this. But right. So let's get into what happened here. Where did we go off the rails? And to me, the biggest reason we went off the rails was complete lack of communication, complete lack of involvement of the community in putting a structure there that would so totally change the look of the town and not getting any input from any of the town residents. And I actually find it very hard to believe that the church did not get input from the residents. I think they got input only from the residents that they wanted. It should be pointed out that there were a couple of things that happened here that made this pretty contentious. The first off is the city planner for the city of Cody is LDS. And I find it very hard to believe that when a temple is announced in your city and you're the city planner and you're LDS, remember it was in 2021, that you don't ask some questions about where it's going and get some input
for a year and a half
from the city. A year and a half it goes by. The first open house where anybody from the community was welcome to make any kind of a input on this was June 7th of 2023. This is when they're already applying for the building permits and everything. So there's absolutely been no community input on the location, on the structure, on the design, nothing. They got no input on how this was going to affect their community. But the church, the other thing the other couple of odd things that happened is the planning commission. In January, there was an opening on the planning commission, and coincidentally enough, LDS city planner opening on the planning commission, and a new member gets appointed to the planning commission who happens to be LDS. When I talked to the people in the Preserving Our Cody community, they said, this guy knows nothing about planning and zoning. He's an orthodontist. And the first question I asked him is, well, if he's an orthodontist, he's probably an ex-bishop as well. And they said, oh, yes, he is. How did you know that?
They thought we were prophetic. They said, how did you know? We said, we've been around the block a couple times in this kind of thing.
Know how the church operates.
Yes, so former bishop would be put.
The church knows they're going to put a temple in. They know they need people on the inside to get this through. They have a city planner who knows there's an opening on the planning board. And all of a sudden an LDS ex-bishop orthodontist gets put in there and gets to be on all the votes. Interestingly enough, there was a member of the planning board who was against the location and against having the temple put in this location. And his company was hired by the church to do the surveying for the land. And because he was an employee of this business he had to recuse himself because the lawyer said you now have a financial gain in this. And so as a result, you now have an LDS member on the board, and somebody who was not in favor of this now has to recuse himself and cannot be on the board.
Right. And as we understand it, that's fairly rare for the church to actually go out and hire a local company. The residents we talked to had kind of looked into it because they've studied the situation of towns dealing with, temples and ordinances. I was going to say temples and ordinances. Yeah. Can't say that in the same phrase. Yeah. Too triggering. Yeah. Anyway, it's fairly rare. Typically, the church will just do their own surveying. So conspiracy-minded people might say, oh my goodness, did they actually hire this company so that this planning commission, zoning commission person would have to recuse themselves. I don't know. I mean, that would be a pretty deep conspiracy. But the bottom line is somebody who we know would have voted against it is gone, has recused themselves. Latter-day Saint is now on the committee, and the planning, the city planner is also LDS. So that's kind of how it stands.
And the whole reason this got through, it was always almost, it was a tie vote consistently, which does not pass with tie votes. And in the case where there was a vote that wasn't a tie, it was only a 1 vote difference. And so this one person they would have made a difference. That had to recuse themselves would have made the difference in the situation. And because they had to recuse themselves. So if that is in fact what happened, then that's very concerning. And that's the look that the community is seeing and saying this isn't right. When we first talked to the community, they asked about that, and they said the LDS guy wouldn't recuse himself. And we said, why shouldn't the LDS guy recuse himself? He certainly has an interest in this. And they said the city attorney said he doesn't need to recuse himself because he does not have a financial stake in this. Of course, we all know, the man has taken an oath in the temple to do everything he can for the building up of the kingdom of God on earth. So the man has taken a sacred oath to be on the side of the church here. How can that not be a qualification to recuse yourself from this position? Now, the city
you can't be impartial. You can't be impartial. And we tried to explain that to the residents, and in our conversations with the residents, they did start to get a sense of exactly what it was, because how would you know? How would you know this inside world? And so we were able to kind of explain to them about these motivations and perhaps allegiances. And then they were even more concerned, I think. Yes.
And to their credit, they said, we don't want to make this about a church or about somebody's beliefs. We want to make it about the ordinances and following the rules. It became clear as this went on and on that they said, we just want to follow the process and follow the process correctly. By the end, when we talked to them, and it's not over yet, but after the last vote, it was clear that they felt lied to, that they felt there was no transparency, and they felt that they could see that this was stuff the church was doing to make sure that this got pushed through with the different, and we'll talk about this with the lawsuits and the different people. And the reason they felt the reason they felt this way was because the church told them, don't worry, we're going to play by the rules. We want to be neighborly. We want your input on this. And what they said and what they did were two completely different things. So we'll start out here. This is the open house that happened on 7 June. And you got to understand this whole thing from when the residents of Cody found out where the temple was going, March, to when they're applying for the permit, July, is literally 2 or 3 months is all the time they had to digest this, with city meetings being held every couple of weeks. So they only got a couple meetings and got to go to the open house, and that was it. They had a very few weeks to completely mobilize and get this out, which was one of their concerns. They said this temple was announced in 2021. We've got an LDS city planner, and we don't learn anything about this until just a couple months before they're going to start breaking ground on. And it moved very, very fast, and they had a very hard time getting any information. Like, they couldn't even find out what hours the temple would be open. They couldn't find out when it would be lit. They were trying to just do their due diligence, and they would assume this would all be public record as something is going to be built. They couldn't find this information. I mean, this is like a full-time job for some of these residents in preserving our Cody neighborhood, to try to figure out even what was going on, so that they could even craft a plan to kind of go to these meetings and talk about these things. So they were very much in the dark, as we're talking about a lit up temple. The residents themselves were in the dark. And the first chance they really had to interface with the church and get some questions answered was an open house that the church put on 7 June 2023. And I think they actually put this on because they could see that the residents were not pleased with what was happening. And of course, as the church always did, they sent out their PR machine to allay the fears of the community. And so this came from the Cody Enterprise newspaper. This is their coverage of the open house and their interview of the church PR spokesman. And this is what he said. He said, "We don't want to do anything that will be an eyesore," Anderson said. Anderson is the spokesman for the church. "We don't want to build anything that makes people go, 'That's not Cody.' We want something that will be a positive contribution to this community. And that means listening to more voices. This means all of us collectively, even those of us who are not of our faith, figuring out what's best for this particular community. Those opposed to the temple's proposed location on Skyline Drive, which is zoned rural residential, have raised concerns about impacts on traffic, lighting, and views, as well as incompatibility with the city's master plan." Anderson said he was grateful for these concerns and those who have expressed them. "Really and truly, I'm glad they care about their community," he said, of those concerned about the temple. "It would be worse if they said, 'I don't care, build whatever you want.' For them to say, 'I care about this beautiful city,' that's great because it shows they care about Cody." Anderson said all of the community's concerns would be worked out during the city planning and zoning hearing at 6 p.m. on June 15th in the Cody Auditorium. He said the church was willing to find a solution that made both the church and the community happy, and that the church would abide by any decisions made by the planning and zoning board. Wow, what a pleasant.
That sounds reassuring. It sounds very reassuring to the residents. Yeah, they probably went, "Oh, good, everything's
sounds
fine."
Like they want input from the community. They want to hear what the community has to say. They welcome design changes. They welcome input. That's the message that was sent out from the church at the open house. The meeting is being held, a week later. And that's when it really hit the fan. We went to AI and generated this, what we call Cody, Wyoming versus the Corporation of the President of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
I dare you to try to say that acronym. Yeah. But what they started to realize once the next meeting happened on the 15th, I believe it was, is that this is not going to go easy. They are now in the fight of their lives. That's why we have a gold angel Moroni and a cowboy kind of going at it, because they're starting to realize this is going to be a fight to try to protect our environment, and to try to make sure that the town is heard and represented in this whole process.
I think it became very clear on the June 15th meeting that they were up against a corporation that had a lot of money. In fact, when we first talked to the Cody neighborhood, that was one of the things we told them, is we said, they are going to lawyer up and they are going to come after you with everything they've got. And they're a multi-billion-dollar corporation, and they are going to try to run you into the ground. And they said, "Do you think we have a shot?" And we said, "Well, you've got a community that's largely not LDS. So, you've got a shot, to fight it, but beware, they're going to lawyer up."
Right. And no, they thought we were prophetic. Pretty much everything we told them would happen, simply because we've seen this over and over, is what happened. And I remember one of the committee members said, what church does this? They actually said those words. I mean, they were very happy to work with a religious organization. They were thinking there would be a compromise. And as they started to see what was happening, they just became very disheartened. And they said, what kind of a church does this? So
these are Christian people who are
yes,
belong to Christian churches that are concerned about the community and the community reaction. They don't belong to corporations that act like churches. They belong to a church that acts like a church. And so they really, their eyes were, I think, open come this time frame
very quickly
started happening. Now, it should be pointed out that they started out with a petition saying this doesn't belong in this neighborhood. They got a Cody petition signed, and you can see here that overwhelmingly, the citizens of Cody did not want the temple located where it is and in this neighborhood, probably 3-1. What the church did, that's the graph.
Yeah, why don't you explain exactly what the colors mean? I think the wording's
so
a
the
little
red
too...
is the code, the people who wanted to not have the temple located in that neighborhood. It's 895. The blue is the people who the church got to sign that wanted it in there, and that's 307. So it's a 3-1. Cody residents did not want this temple located in that neighborhood. What the church did then is the church went out and said, well, this temple's to serve a tri-stake area, and they went out and got people to sign from other counties. So this isn't just other cities, it's other counties. 3 other counties, I think, 4 other counties that surround the temple. And as we learned, some of these counties were actually founded by Mormon pioneers. And so they have large LDS communities, but these counties really don't have a say in what happens in Cody. This is Cody city ordinances. So they went and got a bunch of signatures from the surrounding county from all of their members. And of course, people in other counties don't care about what's happening in Cody per se.
And they're not going to see the temple. That's the issue. It will not be on their hill. And so in this second petition graph, is the red, does that represent the people that do want the church?
No, the red is still the Cody. So the red is the city of Cody. So they're on the left is the Cody results. And then the 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, those are the 4 counties on the right that they went and got to sign. And of course, the church goes to all of their members and, passes it around in sacrament meeting or whatever. I guess they can't technically do that, but, they walk around and get everybody to sign it and get all their members to sign it. And of course, people 2 counties away, the Cody neighborhood people are going, oh, we can't canvass 4 counties trying to get signatures. So you can see there's very few from the other counties because the people who care are the people who live in Cody. And so that kind of shows you that in Cody proper, the city where it's being located, 3-1, the people said, we do not want this in our town on this hill. Correct. We're fine with it being where it's zoned and it going where it's properly zoned. And as pointed out, there are 2 LDS church buildings in town. People aren't opposed to the church or the church being there. They're just opposed to this thing. So not long after the June meeting, we all of a sudden get into this mess where we get to what we call the signs of the times. The residents started putting up signs that say relocate the temple at other places. And from talking to the residences, our understanding is in the neighborhood that it's being impacted, 70 to 80% of the people had the signs to relocate the temple somewhere else. This then turned really bad. The signs started getting stolen and they started getting vandalized. And you can see there on the right, they spray painted it. It looks like blood. They painted Satan on it and said, we need your support, as if it's Satan that's saying that he doesn't want the temple there.
Right. So vilifying the residents that are through due process, putting up, as you can see, the sign on the lower left that simply says, please relocate the temple, preserve our Cody neighborhoods. They're doing their due process. You can put that sign in your yard and you can give people information on how they can express through due process that they would like this relocated. Those signs are stolen. Those signs are vandalized and put back in people's yards with blood and Satan all over them.
And then it took an even worse turn. You can see the signs up at the top where it says Mormon trash and we made Cody. These are signs that are evidently made to try to make people look bigoted. These were not made
by the residents who are asking that the temple be relocated. However, these signs were put around as if that group was, coming after the church. They were not. They did not make these signs.
Yeah,
so
people were waking up
very
in the
twisted.
Found these signs in their yard.
Yeah, and they said, we never put these
Where did
here.
These signs come from?
Yeah.
It's almost as if someone was trying to make it look like they were bigoted.
Right, framing them. Yeah.
Yeah. Some of these signs, though, like the "We Made Cody," that's an indication that the LDS people made Cody, which is simply not true.
Correct.
They did found some towns around Cody, but Cody itself was founded by, as we said, Wild Bill Cody, and was not part of that. So,
Right.
so
So I
this
think what
turned,
it shows is very divisiveness already happening in the town. We're not very far even into the due process as far as the meetings and the votes, and already the citizens are, there's some issues there between the Latter-day Saints there, the other people in the town. It's just, it's not going well already, and we're just at the beginning of the process.
yes, and then the church members really ratcheted this up. In the newspaper, one of the bishops came out to say this, and he said this in relation to these signs that showed up that appeared to be, against the church. And Todd Christensen, a bishop of a Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints ward in Cody, said the message clearly is anti-church, not about building codes. I'm pretty sure when they say not in my neighborhood, the same argument has also been extended to not in my town, and in some instances, not in my county. He said, at some point, you have to put your foot down and say that's not right. He believes it's no different than if someone was trying to argue against Black children being allowed to attend school in their area, or members of other religions from being allowed to live somewhere. That's like saying it's not about race, but I just don't want colored kids to go to our school. We like Jews, but they should just go somewhere else, he said. This is what he said in the local Cody newspaper.
Everyone was absolutely stunned. And again, in talking to these residents, they are not at all opposed to this on any level of any kind of religious ground. They're simply worried about the zoning and the ordinance restrictions. Please build this temple somewhere else. It is not about religion.
I think the sign, if you look, I just went back to the slide, it's relocate the temple. And then they show the graph with how high the temple is compared to the other buildings. It's completely about building codes. It has nothing to do with religion. There's no religion intolerance there. And it was clear to us when we talked to the community members that they were absolutely doing everything they could to make sure that they did not look like they were going after the church on religious beliefs. In fact, we wanted to air a program on this earlier, but us referring to this would look like that they maybe were talking to what the church would pull out, anti-Mormon podcast. And so we said, we won't air this. We won't discuss this until after the vote, because we don't want to harm your side. And give the church some sort of ammunition that, they're going out onto podcasts that aren't friendly to the church and going after them. And so every effort was made to keep this political and not religious. But the church, as we all know, cannot help but go after this. And this was the result. After the town meetings, several town meetings, the town actually had voted to allow they had a vote on it, and the vote I think was 3-2 if I'm not mistaken, but because that was not a majority of it was 3-2 to allow the church to build there, but because that was not a majority of the board ruled that it did not pass, that you needed a majority of the board. Evidently there's an issue between the laws in Cody and the laws of the state as to whether it has to be a majority of the board members or a majority of those that are there to vote. So immediately the church filed a lawsuit, sues the city of Cody over the planning process. Now remember, just a month prior in the open house, the church said they would abide by all decisions of the planning and zoning board, of which the planning and zoning board had made the decision that it did not pass. Now, it's also equally important to keep in mind that they applied for a variance on the roof height, because the zoning code said the roof could only be 30 feet high in this area, and they've got a 101-foot spire. Well, the city planner, who is LDS, made this ruling that a steeple or a structure that the steeple is not considered part of the roof, that it's not to be included in the height. So even though it's 101 feet tall, it still meets the 30-foot height restriction.
That is just ludicrous. I think that's just
the
ludicrous.
roof line itself is 30 feet, but the steeple that sits on top of it goes much higher.
Splitting hairs, I feel like. And at this point, I believe when the two lawsuits were filed, boom, boom, one after another, I think that's when the world at large started taking notice, because this is very unusual. Here's a church, it's filing lawsuit after lawsuit against this small town. And I think that's when it ratcheted up a little bit as far as starting to appear in the news. Bigger news sources and outlets started to write articles about this, because it's just a bad look. Church files lawsuit and then church files second lawsuit. You know, it really is a David and Goliath kind of a scenario. And I think the church is often used to being seen as David. You know, they're the ones that are persecuted. In this case, they're not. They're a corporate Goliath, and it shows in these kinds of headlines and the articles that are coming out. So one of the more interesting things that we also learned in discussing things with the residents, if we can move to the next slide, is why don't you explain what this is a picture of, Landon?
Yeah, this is the temple. Evidently, you know, these new portable mobile temples that they have, or whatever you want to call them, the quick ones that they can set up. These are, they put them in boxes and they ship them out. And so this is the temple. It's sitting on some ground owned by one of the wealthy members' businesses there. They started moving these in May, before they even had the open house where they told them that they wanted their input on the look and everything. The pieces of the temple were already showing up. So quite kind of shows you where the church was, that they weren't being forthright when they said they wanted the input from the community. It had already been designed, it had already been fabricated, and it was already being shipped to the location.
Yeah, that to me is so unusual. When we had heard that these pieces were laying here, and we only just a day or so ago learned from some of our sources there in Cody that it literally had been May. and that really speaks I think to intent, that they're sure this is going to go through. It's all going to happen even before the meetings. Here they are, just waiting.
Well, it also, I think, is what led to the lawsuits happening so quick, because the church can't make changes to it. They've already ordered it and got the pieces sitting there. So for them to say, oh, we can change this or that. And we heard that in the meetings, that in one of the meetings, they said, well, we can go to 85 foot on the steeple, but that's it. Well, the reason is because it's already fabricated and the pieces are already put together. They can't start making a lot of modifications to the structure when they've already fabricated it and sent it. So
exactly. And these are examples, if our viewers or listeners aren't familiar, it's called a pop-up temple. It's a modular sort of pieces that make it very convenient to just kind of put together and pop up quickly. I had heard rumors of this years ago from a friend who was trying to contract with a construction company here in Utah to do some work. This maybe was like 10 years ago. And the company had said, oh, we can't do anything for anybody except for the church, because we're working on these pieces. So then a few years later, it trickles out, and now these are commonplace, and we know that this is how a lot of temples are built, very quickly, with these modular prefab pieces.
Yeah, this is one of the reasons that they're going to 312 temples, is because they have these prefabricated temples. They're all very similar. They're going to look similar in nature. They have a couple patterns that they use, so that they can, this notion that we're going to blend it in with your architecture and all of that, it just simply is not true, because they're all going to look fairly similar, because they're building them prefabricated, cost effective, and that's why they're doing this. And so to me, that was disingenuous, the statement by the church's PR that they wanted to work with them and get input, when they knew that the pieces were already on their way. Not only on their way, they were there. Well, they were there by June, when they still didn't have a building permit, but they had all the pieces there, or not. I don't know if this is all the pieces, but they certainly had many of the pieces in place already. So,
Yeah, that's
yep,
very true.
absolutely. This is the wave of the future, which means there will be little room for negotiating, and that's why the church comes in and just bullies through and says, "This is what we're doing, and we'll sue you if we don't get what we want." So,
Yep, that's how it's looking, unfortunately. So, and
and
then, oh my goodness, this was the saddest thing. So, um, you know, lawsuit after lawsuit. And then, like I said, we're in contact with these Cody residents. We get this picture from one of our new Cody friends who had just picked up the newspaper. And the headline, of course, is LDS rep says further litigation will cost the city. And in talking to them, they said basically we were told don't even try because we basically have the funds to fight this out till the end until your city has no resources left. So they were very disheartened with headlines. And this is actually a picture of the paper in one of our Cody friends' cars. She picked it up and put it in the front seat and sent us a picture.
yeah, this was really heartbreaking, because this is really seems to be what turned the tide. Is, they went to the city council, they went to the meeting, and they told them, you keep fighting us on this and we will sue you and sue you and sue you until your city has no resources. They've threatened the very same thing to the Cody Preserve Our Neighborhood group, that that if they continue to fight this, that they will try to make it so that they're responsible for paying the legal bills of the church if they lose. They're threatening these people. In fact, one of the people on the planning committee, when they asked, why she was voting the way she was, she said, because I don't like to be threatened, and you guys are threatening us. Well, it turns out she changed her vote, and they passed giving them the building permit. But you can imagine the position that you're in when you're on the planning committee and you're trying to evaluate, whether this structure meets codes and requirements and whatnot. And you're told by your city attorney is going to come back to you and say, look, if we have to go to court on this, it's going to bankrupt the city. And so as an elected official, your responsibility is to protect the city from being sued. And the church knows this. The church is going to pay no taxes on this property now. The property going forth is going to be, tax-free as a religious institution, no property taxes. And yet they come in, they use the hordes of wealth that they made while they weren't having to pay taxes on any of that to come and bully a city. And a city of 10,000 cannot afford to fight this. And the church knows it, and they just bully people. And that's exactly what they've done here. And that's why there is so much discontent among the people there. They're going, what kind of church is this that comes in and bullies people and sues them and threatens to bankrupt them if they don't get what they want? And you can see why the church has so many enemies when they act this way, because this is not new. This is how the church has always acted. When they move into an area, is they say, this is what we're going to do, and we will vote as a block, and we will run roughshod over you. And that's why, they don't like to tell you this in their history, but this is why they've been chased out of so many places, is because they come in and take over, and people in the area say, we don't appreciate the way you're acting. And in the days past, you just rise up and chase them off. And nowadays, the church is now no longer the underdog. They're the ones inflicting the pain. And that's what
and it's not a good look. It's not a good look. And a lot of people are taking notice, not only just locally in Cody, but everywhere, and saying, what is happening here? It's a little microcosm of this whole situation.
Yep, that's exactly true. So so the result of this is we'll go over that a little bit, but in the end, the church got the permit approved. There is still some confusion as to what that allows them to do and whether they have full authorization. The church says they do. The Cody Neighborhood Association says they do not. But basically, as a result of this, there seems to be some confusion, and you can see right here surprise gigantic 77-foot steeple for Mormon temple in Cody gets approved after all. And from what I'm reading is there's a lot of confusion as to whether the steeple has been approved or not, because the church withdrew the application for an application to have this reviewed as a special permit or a special,
special
consideration.
Condition. Yes.
So the Cody members are saying, no, you didn't get the approval to build the 77-foot. The church is saying, basically, no, the city planner, who is a member of the church, said that that doesn't count and that we don't have to have a special permit. So we're going to go ahead and build it anyway. So there seems to be confusion as to whether this allows them or doesn't allow them to go ahead and build this steeple that they want to.
The steeple, but the building, the site approval is there. The building can go in, but the specifics now, I believe, back and forth. There's more to it.
Yep, it's definitely not quite what we think. So
no.
So again, we're back to Trexmos. We have
to. It's a stress release. I've decided we work out our trauma through Trexmo.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And these memes really kind of sum up to us the way that this all went down. The first one there on the left, they're targeting an area and they're looking at a kind of a map, and the one gentleman says, so this is our target area for the new Cody Temple. It's a residential neighborhood with limited access, pristine views, dark sky ordinances, not zoned for commercial buildings, height restrictions, and few LDS members. And the other two guys go, perfect, awesome.
Oh dear.
You want to hit that other one?
Yeah, and the second one is a very serious looking panel of gentlemen standing up in a very threatening way. And they say, we're your worst nightmare, Cody. We're Curtin McConkie.
Everyone's worst nightmare. Yeah.
And then our next Trexmo, this is the one that a lot of people have expressed this sentiment. And I think this is very accurate. It's a group of people standing, and I'm describing it for our listeners. Of course, if you're viewing, you can see, but it's a group of people standing in a Western setting in Star Trek. And Captain Kirk says, yeah, good luck on your missionary efforts in Cody now. And we have heard this. And in fact, I think that brings us to our next segment. Do we have another slide, or are we going to the next segment?
No, we're going to go to our caller and see how this played out in Cody and what the feeling is there now.
Exactly. Like I said, we connected with many people, and one of them is able to come on Mormonish with us and just sort of tell us a little more about the situation there. She's going to talk about the wards and the number of members and how it's affecting all of us. So we're really, really excited to be able to talk to Yvonne Chandler right now and hear a little bit more from the ground right there, from the situation, what's happening. So as we said, we've had the wonderful opportunity of being in contact with, several residents from Cody, being able to hear kind of boots on the ground what's happening. And we're lucky enough to be able to Zoom today with Yvonne Chandler. Hi, Yvonne.
Hi there. Hi, guys. Thank you.
Hi.
Yeah, and Yvonne is a member of the church there in Cody, in one of the Cody wards. And so we thought we'd talk to her and visit with her for just a little bit to see how this controversy of the temple, I guess you could call it, has affected the people there and the town itself. So, Yvonne, we just wanted to start out by asking you, first off, how has this temple brought the community closer together, or has it divided the community? What's the feeling there in Cody as far as this temple going in?
Well, to be honest, I have been here for 18 years, and I love the community. This is the kind of community, one of the jokes was that my arm will get so tired of just waving. People just wave at you and say hi. I have relatives coming to visit, and they say that totally strangers will talk to them and say hi to them at the store, walking, and they don't get that in their own neighborhoods. So it's a loving, wonderful, close-knit community. The only other time I have seen something like this was back during COVID. We did have a lot of division because from us, anti-mask and everything else. But in general, then that died down. But now it's awful because it's like we are one against each other. The majority is silent about it because or they don't like controversy. They are not out there speaking. But the majority of the people, they do not want the temple in that location. And it's going to take a lot to bring this committee back together. I know that some of the church leaders, they have said, thank you, the committee, for the support and everything else. They want to bring the community together, but I don't think that is going to happen because right now is basically lots of people are not happy with the church in general. To the point that before, some of them will say, okay, I do not like the church doctrine. I don't like what they believe on, but I have so many church members as friends and neighbors, and they are good people, and I love them. That was at the beginning, back in April, May. But as the weeks went by and the church started suing and the church started pushing their way around, the feeling is this. One lady the other day posted, at the beginning I thought that this was harmless, but now I see that this is very different. This is it's like the work of the devil, the way that they are dividing our community. And many people right now, they are not liking their church members as neighbors, as friends. Some of them have been saying, hey, let's compose a list of the business owned by LDS people and let's boycott them, which we do have a lot of businesses owned by the LDS members. And the other thing is, for example, dentists. I want to say 60-70% of the dentists are LDS. We only have one podiatric, and he's LDS. We only have one neurosurgeon. He's LDS. And then we have the one of the clinics here, one of the medical clinics here is a very popular. I think there are 7-8 doctors. 4 of them are LDS. So they're all over the place. So that's one of the reasons why some people have been hesitant about speaking out in public through Classify or Cody Chat, one of those sites, because the deal with LDS. I work for an LDS family, and I can see my coworkers. That is how they feel. They're against the church. They don't like what the church is doing, but they are afraid to speak out at the same time.
Interesting. So this is a very small community. Cody's about 10,000 people. So obviously you don't have a large infrastructure of hospitals and doctors and clinics. And we all know that the church very much has a prosperity gospel and has a lot of wealthy people that doctors, dentists, things like that. And so I can certainly see where that would be an impact on a community like this. To get to the point where non-members who are served by these people, these are their doctors and their dentists, are to the point where they're saying, we don't want to even support the businesses of these people. That's a real reflection of how they feel like they were treated during this process. What were the things during the process that upset the people the most? I know we talked to the Preserve Our Cody Neighborhood groups and some of the people in there. And at first, when we started talking to them, they were, hey, this is just about, we don't care if they have a temple in Cody. We just don't want it in this location. And they said, and we want to keep it that way. That's what we want this to be about. We love our neighbors. We want to make it about the location, not about the religion. But in the last couple times since we've talked to them, that's really changed. The attitude is, who are these people and what kind of Christian church deals with people this way?
Yeah. Their eyes have been opened, and it's been interesting to see their very just sort of positive, hopeful, and then to see them going, is this a church? That's their question. How can this be a church? Why are they doing this to us? Yeah. So good question, Landon. Yeah.
Yes, and the local newspaper has been great at with the cartoons and everything else, and even the newspaper editor, went ahead and wrote a letter in reference saying that the church has not been transparent. You know, the church is basically talking with the both sides of their mouth. One side saying, yes, let's work together. Let's come up with a solution. Let's be friendly. Let's be, let's make it us, But then the other side, the legal side, is like, we're going to sue you. We're going to do what we want to do. And for example, the last cartoon in the newspaper, you have a judge sitting at the podium, and then you have a lawyer coming to the judge, and he's saying, in the spirit of neighborliness, we're going to sue you. We're going to sue the city.
In the spirit of neighborliness, we're going to sue you.
Yes, or something like that in those lines. And that expresses what people are feeling. Is you have church leaders from Salt Lake City and from here say, yes, we're going to be this, and we're going to do this, and we're going to do that. And then in the other side, they're saying, no, we are going to get our way, no matter how you feel. We love you, but we are going to do what we want. And what people, non-LDS, are realizing is, my goodness, we are 10,000 here in Cody per se. And we need to bend backwards because maybe 500 people from Cody wants to attend the temple. And I'm being generous with that number, because we're talking 4 wards, 125 people per ward, something like that, and 150 people per ward. And I don't know if there are that many. And even some LDS have brought the point is, my goodness, what is going to be happening to the Helena temple? To the Billings temple.
Mm-hmm.
Because I used to serve on the Thursday morning section as a temple ordinance worker. My goodness, I want to say on Thursday morning, I want to say maybe 30%, 40% of the ordinance workers or the patrons were from the Bighorn Basin. And they are not going to be attending the Billings temple anymore. The Billings temple is like 3 times larger than the Cody temple. They just opened the Helena, Montana temple. People from Helena, they used to come to the Billings temple as patron or ordinance worker. They are not coming any longer. So it will be interesting to see how many people actually are going to be using the Billings temple. One of, a recorder, one of the recorders in 2019 when I was there, he was from Riverton, Wyoming. So he and his wife had a special schedule that he would come and work like 3 days in a row, and they will stay in a hotel or somewhere else, maybe with relatives or friends. But once the Casper temple opens, he's not going to be coming, and some other members from Riverton and Casper won't be coming here either. So do we really need a temple in Cody? For the Cody members, it's a wonderful opportunity because driving at 4:30 a.m. for 2 hours to be at the temple before 7 a.m. during winter time with winter storms, and we need to go through the mountains, go through the mountain pass. It was terrifying, terrifying. I was driving like 30 miles sometimes, or 40 miles, because I couldn't see. So because of that, it makes sense to have a temple for the safety and convenience of the local temples. but to the price that we are paying, it's not worth. It will have make more sense to go ahead and build it somewhere else. Cabo Daily News just have Leo Wolf. He just had a great article in which he's comparing the Casper Temple to the Cody Temple. No problem at all with the Casper Temple. Even he quotes the mayor, the Casper mayor speaking. He hardly received any pushback about the Casper Temple. The difference is it is the same size, 10,000 square feet, but the lot site is 10 acres, almost double the size. But the most important difference is the Casper Temple is being built in a zone that is in an area that's zoned for that kind of building. Okay, there are lots of buildings, and also the road in front of the Casper Temple is going to be a 4 or 5 lane road, so that will not create any traffic problem. If I'm able to send you the video that I wanted, you will be able to see it is just a 2-lane road that lots of people bike, walk their dogs, and it's a wonderful neighborhood, very quiet, and I feel sorry for the neighbors because to build that 10,000 square feet temple with a 101 feet high steeple with a parking lot for 140 cars, and plus the next building, I don't remember the site of the next building. I think it's going to be about 2,000 square feet. All that is going to be in a 5-acre lot between 2 homes.
Yeah, and I guess we need to emphasize again that the issue here is not that they're building a temple. The people that we've all talked to said we're fine with the temple being built in Cody. It's just the location, residential area up on a hill lit with a 101-foot spire that dominates the landscape of this historic town.
Yes.
I think when we talked, you pointed out that a large majority of the members actually don't live in Cody, but they live in the surrounding counties, and that there are some of the counties that are very highly populated by LDS, and it would have made a lot more sense to have put the temple in those communities where the majority of the people are. Can you talk just a little bit about that?
Certainly. This Cody Temple is supposed to service a tri-stake area, the Worland stake, the Bighorn stake, and the Cody stake. Now, if you can picture on your head a triangle section. Okay, let me tell you something else about Cody. Cody is 50 miles from the Yellowstone East entrance. So Cody really cannot grow toward the west because there is no really any place to, between Cody and the east entrance of the Yellowstone is a beautiful drive, very pristine. You have mountains on each side, and then you have the Buffalo Bill Reservoir. Is a beautiful area. Somebody described that as the most beautiful 50 miles in the States. So really, there is not going to be much growth that way. All the other, even with the Cody stake, the rest of the Cody stake lays on the east side of Cody. You have Powell, and you have Burlington, and you have Otto. Powell also has 4 wards. On the east side of the Cody stake, you have the Bighorn stake, and you have the Worland stake. So people living there, they're still going to have to drive at least an hour, depending where within those states they live. They're still going to have to drive within an hour or a little bit more to get to the Cody stake. So really, they're not saving a lot of money. A lot of time. But then, talking about the Bighorn stake, that is where the original Mormon pioneers back in somewhere in the 1900, 1910, they came here to stabilize. There were some Mormons that they came previously toward the end of the 1890s or so, and they established a small branch in the Burlington area. And when President Woodruff's son, who was an apostle, I cannot think of his first name, he was the one in charge of coming and looking at the area and setting the boundaries and everything else. When he originally came, he went and met with the Bishop of Burlington, and they decided that would be a better place for a larger colony to be established outside Lobo in the Bighorn County. And they created the city of Cowley over there and the city of Byron, and those are the great majority at LDS. And also Lovell. Lovell has 3 or 4 wards, and Lovell is, I think, they have the size of Cody. So it's a very, very popular, well-known, and actually the Cody members that they are here, they are descendant, many of them are descendant of the original ones that they moved from Cowley and the Byron. They came and they started establishing themselves in 1920, 1930, just for business opportunities, like the Taggarts. They had a construction company, and that's how they end up in Cody. It's just, there was too much competition in the Bighorn Basin for them, and they decided to open up the Cody area. We did not get a chapel in Cody until 1954. But yes, the majority. So if the church was really concerned about the convenience and safety of their members, they will place it closer to where the majority of the members reside. And then on top of that, that would be a wonderful way, building a temple there, it will be a wonderful way to honor the memory and the sacrifices of those originally LDS pioneers. They settled the area in 1910. Can you imagine coming across in wagons, horses from Utah to settle here? There was no water. They had to dig the canal, the Sidon Canal. They helped to lay the railroad. That was in 1910. We didn't have John Deere's and Caterpillar machine. Everything had to be done with shovels. A steam shovel was a lot of work. It's a wonderful book that you can read. And the church should have placed the temple there,
And that makes sense. It would have been towards the center. It would have been in a largely LDS town, which would have been much more welcome than Cody. So why do you think they chose Cody to put the temple
on a hill?
Because it's a tourist town and they get to show it off
on the way to Yellowstone. Yeah, that's what I think.
I tell you what, in 2021, when the temple was announced, I do have a daughter who is still very active, and she and her husband and children were coming over, and we were having dinner on a Sunday, and we were discussing, must have been November 2021. And my son-in-law asked me, do you have an idea where they're going to build? And we, the 4 of us, we were possible areas, and I told them, I said, it's going to be up there because I say the Nielsen's own the property. And then guess what? Because my son was saying, okay, on the way to Worland or on the way to Billings, I said, no, it's going to be there because guess what? Most of the people here, when we drive, Walmart is there and the hospital is there and we have the museum is there. We drive that area back and forth. And then the tourists, when they come and they're going to Yellowstone, or they're coming back from Yellowstone, or they're going to the rodeo, or they're coming back to the rodeo, that's what they are going to see, because the temple is going to be right there, up above. I think they're saying about 100 feet tall, and you're going to see it, and it's white, and it's going to have the lights on. So and that's what some non-members are saying. It's like, it's me, look at me, how nice I am. And the other thing too, that many non-LDS are finally realizing, I say, why are they spending the money to build these kind of temples? You don't need that to honor God. is God. That's not the way that God and Jesus Christ want to be. They are humble. Yes, they're quoting, put the light on the hill, but they're talking about showing what you can do, no building buildings for people to admire. And it's just for shows, basically.
And I think the two issues that the city council is fighting with in this location is the height of the spire, which the church does not seem willing to get rid of that spire, because if they do, it won't be nearly as noticeable. And the second thing is lighting. They want to light it up, and they want to light it up as long and as late as they can. Both things seem to be showy. You could get rid of the lighting, you could get rid of the steeple, and you'd still have a temple, but it wouldn't be showy anymore, and the church cannot deal with that.
Exactly. It has nothing to do with the religious element. The light. There are other temples that have a simple dome, I think in Arizona, so it has nothing to do with the religious function, serving the people. It's simply so people on the outside can see from miles around this ostentatious building just for show. And I think the residents there are confused and recognizing that. And again, saying, is this a church? It doesn't seem to be serving the definition of what a church does.
Exactly. And when the controversy started back in April or so, is because of the site, I think, was announced sometime in March or so, and people were saying, oh, you're just being anti-LDS and this and the other. I will say, we already have 2 chapels here, and no one is complaining about the chapels because they blend with the neighborhoods. Even the state center, it blends very nicely with all the trees, the brown color, and really blends with the Cody Western look. This temple is white, and it has lights, and it has heights. So, and I was going to say something.
Western.
Yeah, no Western. I was going to say something else, and I forgot, to be honest.
There's a lot to talk about. Yeah, no, we really appreciate you giving your insight, and we just want to tell everybody in Cody that this fight, we're following it everywhere else. We're looking at it, and we're, solidarity with Cody, and we've been trying all along to get the word out and to just really stand with everyone. We just, Landon and I are in Utah, and we just barely went through this with the Heber Valley temple. So the same kind of thing, does not belong in that pristine environment, dark skies and, beautiful vistas. And unfortunately, of course, everyone here is LDS, so there was no way that it was not going to happen. But I think in Cody, we just thought, maybe this is the case. And we're still hopeful, even though it's past that,
We're still for a fight. I didn't mean
stand with Cody.
Yes, thank you. 2 things. Can you believe we still can see the Milky Way over here? We can see the stars. When we first moved here from Maryland, one of our daughters commented, "Oh, Mom, they have a lot more stars here than they do in Maryland." And the poor little girl, back then, she didn't realize it's not that we don't have more stars, it's there are less lights. So you can enjoy those stars. And the other thing, the fight is continuing because Preserve Cody, our Cody Neighborhood, sent a text yesterday. The Cody and the Powell paper, they went ahead and they wrote articles, and apparently had been approved with the 101 feet and everything else. But they say, no, if you look carefully, people are not really sure, but they're thinking that it cannot be. So they are going to continue that. They have contacted their lawyers. Hopefully we can hear something else from the lawyers. And, I'm not giving up.
No, not giving up. No, you can't give up. And I just feel like, though, I feel damage has been done, and a lot of irreparable things have happened as far as relationships in the town and just the way the church is seen. I don't know if they recognize that, but the different people we've talked to, again, they're just like, what is this organization? I want to look into this a little more. Who are these people? So I think damage has been done.
Yes, lots of people then realizing that Mormons are, they think that they are superior and that what they want or they feel that is right, it needs to prevail. So they are understanding that slowly but surely. I feel sorry for the missionaries because I do think we
Yes.
don't get really in the 18 years I have been here, we hardly got any converts, new converts. The church, the Cody first or Cody fourth grow, the great majority has been because of members moving into the area for work or because of children, reaching the age of 8 and being baptized. We had a lot of families that they had 6 and 8 children, but I see that there are lots of families now that are only having 2, 3, or 4 children.
Mm-hmm.
So if those families stay here and the children stay here, the numbers are going to keep on going down. And I will not be surprised if we go back to 3 wars or maybe just do 2 wars, because I don't see the numbers there.
And I don't think the community is going to be very supportive of the missionary effort at this point after how they were treated. And I just want to point out that something that you said there, because I've been to Wyoming, I've been to Cody, and that dark sky, that ability to see the Milky Way, nothing makes you think or consider the divine more than when you look out and see that Milky Way and the awesomeness of what's out there. And to destroy that by lighting a building, you're taking and saying a few people appreciate the divine through that lit up building, but you're stealing that ability from the rest of the residents there who commune with the divine maybe in a different way, but that's being taken from them when you put this big lit up building on a hill that then destroys the view of the Milky Way in the heavens there. And I think that's something that the citizens are considering, is you're taking the way I
my church, which is the beautiful sky.
Yep.
Yeah. It's at this moment what people feel is like the minority is ruling.
Yep.
Because it's just going to be a minority of people, a couple hundred people here in Cody, that they're going to benefit from this temple. Because even people are realizing, oh, not everyone, not all LDS people can go there. It's
very
just
small number. Yes.
Yeah. And even people have brought up the fact that you cannot go eat there to witness your relatives' wedding. You're not allowed to go in for the weddings if you are not one of those special members.
Or your friends. These are your friends in the community, and when they get married, you won't be able to go to that building and see that. You'll be left out as well.
Yeah. Well, there's a spotlight being shown on the church there, a spotlight shining from that temple, and it's not revealing very positive things, I think, to people. So the whole thing is very unfortunate.
Yep. The church, I'm sorry, I'm sad to say, after 40-something years, I finally realized the church does not bring families together. It does not. It does not. It divides them. So.
And now communities as well. So
communities and families. Yeah, that's it. Well, thank you so much, Yvonne, for talking to us. We just appreciate that. I mean, we've gone into some other details about the politics around this, but just to hear from someone and how they're impacted personally, and just, I think the community relations, when you say Landon, is the thing that I think everyone is most concerned about. And it does seem to be really dividing this community, and will continue to, I think. So,
Oh, it will, because as I said at the beginning, I saw something like this, not as bad as now, but I saw something similar with COVID. We have the pro-COVID mask and the against mask group. But that went away. This will not go away, because every time you drive through a Skyline or you drive through West Yellowstone Avenue, because that's the name of the avenue below the temple, you're going to see it. So every time you go by, it will be like a child who was sexually abused by someone, having to see that person continuously. It just keep on reminding you, what you went through. And that's what we're going to have. The temple is going to be a reminder for those who did not want it there. And it's, like you say, it's not about the temple, it's the location of the temple.
Mhm.
There are so
Yeah.
many other places I could have gone. Bighorn Avenue will be ideal. We have some big businesses, big buildings over there. But they didn't want that.
Yeah.
And plus, it's a 4-lane highway, too.
Yeah. No, and thank you for explaining all that too, as we have much more of a sense, especially if most members live elsewhere. Put the temple there. So, any last thoughts, Landon? It's been just wonderful to talk to Yvonne. Just appreciate all the perspective.
Yeah, no, thank you, Yvonne. Been very helpful in kind of setting the tone. And I think your yard there in the background really gives us a good example of what the Cody looks like, what the Cody area really looks like. So thank you so much.
Beautiful.
You're welcome. Thank you, guys. Thank you for all you do. I appreciate it.
Have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you so much, Yvonne. Bye-bye. Thank you. So it was just wonderful to be able to communicate with Yvonne, and we'd like to give a special shout out also to her husband, Bob, who I hear is a wonderful, wonderful supporter and fan of Mormonish. So thank you, Bob and Yvonne, for just keeping us in the loop and letting us know what's going on, and also getting the word out on how to help in this situation. So it was interesting, as we mentioned before, that the members there, of course, were very supportive of this plan to build the temple. They attended all the city council meetings, and as we understand from our friends there, they were kind of told to show up in their Sunday best, definitely dressed in church clothes. They looked like a unified block as they went there. Some of them in the pictures I saw seemed to have name tags on. I don't know if that was service missionaries or what, but they definitely gave the impression, we are behind this, we are here, which might have been a little confusing or make people nervous there in the rest of the Cody residents, because here they are all of a sudden en masse. And somebody gave us a copy of this letter that was sent out from the stake presidency. I'm guessing there were other communications as they explain to people how they could support this process, but maybe Landon, you can read this. This is from the stake presidency, just thanking people for what they were doing as far as the membership.
Yeah, to the Cody residents, this really felt like a slap in the face because, you know, they went to the open house. They were told that it was going to be that they were going to be able to participate, that they were happy and then they end up suing them twice. The lawsuits are still open. They're not closing them. And then they go into the meeting and say, we're going to bankrupt the city if you continue to fight this. And then the city, the planning board, after feeling threatened, ends up passing it because they're afraid they're going to be sued. And then here's the letter put out by the church to the community. We appreciate city leaders and the thoughtful deliberation they have had as our request to build a sacred house of worship in Cody was considered. This was balanced, knowing the community concerns that were raised and resolved consistent with city ordinances and future plans. The turnout of church members, our friends and neighbors coming together to support the construction of the temple was robust and heartening. As we move forward, we look forward to bringing the community together. And that's from the second counselor in the Cody, Wyoming stake presidency. So,
oh my goodness, that does not really describe exactly what happened. In fact, it's extremely passive aggressive. Oh, I can see why that would be disturbing and concerning to people that really know what's happening there on the ground.
Yeah. Just shows you that a tale of two cities here. You know, almost where the church puts on a great face when they get what they want, and when they don't get what they want, they bring in lawyers and they threaten and they jump up and down until they get what they want. And that's what we saw here in Cody. So what's next?
So the most important part, as we said, there was some confusion on, is it passed? Is it over? Is it a done deal? Well, yesterday on the Facebook page, Preserving Our Cody Neighborhood, you can all go there and find out the latest up-to-date information. They posted this, where they say, update, contrary to confusing articles in the media and social media posts, we do not believe the LDS Church can build a 101-foot temple. We aren't finished yet. We are pressing on with our legal counsel and will continue pursuing all our options. Please stay tuned and engaged as we work through this. And then they go on to say, keep your yard signs up, keep the word out. This is the Preserving Our Cody Neighborhoods citizens group. Now, there are different ways that you can help. The best way, you can go to Preserving Our Cody Neighborhoods. They'll give you all the information there. It gives you an address where you can actually mail a check. Of course, they definitely need funds to, keep up. They have attorneys. You can go online. There's a website there. Like I said, all of these are under Preserve Our Cody Neighborhoods on Facebook. So if you want to know how to help or just get current information, please go there, because according to our friends there in Cody, it's not over yet. They do not believe that they have permission to build the 101-foot tower. So we'll see. I don't know. There's conflicting information, isn't there, in the media, Landon? So we don't know, but they seem optimistic here, at least, that they can continue to fight. And so they're asking for donations and help.
Yep, and that's the way I see it as well. It's not a done deal, but I think one side thinks it is, the other side thinks it's not, and I think the fight's going to continue on this to try to get a change and at least make them conform with the specifications and the code requirements for building this in a residential area.
Yeah, I think so too. So hopefully we kind of told the story, gave everybody a little bit of more information in one place. It's been a long, drawn out process with lots of different articles back and forth. But again, you can Google all of this. You can read all the articles as they came out in real time if you want to look more into it. And please, please help if you'd like to, just so that they can at least put up as good a fight as they can, I think. So thank you everybody for watching, and please like and subscribe if you would like to receive notifications on when our next episode comes out. You can hit that little notification bell, and as always, you can help financially support the channel if you'd like to kind of support our infrastructure and our efforts. There are links to PayPal and Venmo in our show notes, and we appreciate our viewers. We appreciate everyone in Cody, and we'll say goodbye now from Mormonish. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for joining us for another episode of Mormonish. We really appreciate our listeners and would love to hear from you if you have a story you'd like to share. You can email us at mormonishpodcast@gmail.com. You can also find us on Facebook, Instagram, and on our website, mormonishpodcast.org. And don't forget to look for us on YouTube and like and subscribe. Keep joyful, everybody.